Hello, it's Sandy with a little bit of glitter, and today I have a card using Lawn Fawn's new Kanga-riffic stamp collection. This card I've used the Kanga-riffic stamp set along with the Kanga-riffic Add On and the Kanga-riffic Baby Sentiment Add On. It had been a while since I had used the interactive Peekaboo Pop Up card die, so I decided this would be the perfect time to bring that one out of my little stash. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You can also subscribe by hitting that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill or on my blog, A Little Bit of Glitter. Let's get started. I've started out by cutting two pieces using the Peekaboo die, the main piece. I cut one with the embossed lines on the left-hand side and one with the embossed hands on the right-hand side. The one with the embossed lines on the right-hand side is the one I'm going to be using for that very front panel that actually covers up the mechanism that makes that little kangaroo pop up. I'm using the hillside die that comes along with that set, and I've measured up 2 inches from the bottom of that left-hand corner. I'll go ahead and tape that on and then run it through my die cut machine. Once I have that cut, I need to determine where I want that hillside to go on the back of the card. I do want some hillside in the back on that panel, so I'll lay the piece that I've already cut down and kind of place my stencil where I want it on my card base. I'll go ahead and tape that down with some washi tape. And then I'm going to use some Tea Dye Distress Oxide ink for my first layer. Then I will come back in with that and use a little bit of Vintage Photo just at that top edge to give it a little bit of dimension. I'll move that out of the way and then do the same thing on the little piece that's going to be that front panel. Once I have that done, I will speckle both of those together using a little bit of watered down Vintage Photo just to give that foreground and the background just a little bit more interest. Once that background is dry, I'm going to go ahead and mask off that hillside area. I like to leave just a little teeny bit of that inked area above the die. That way I can bring my other color down into it, but you do need to make sure that your ink is dry or you're going to drag that up into the top of it. I'm going to place my clouds next. I'm going to use Uncharted Mariner Distress Oxide. I chose the Slimline Cloudy stencil for this one. This background is just a smidgen bigger than 6 inches. And if I use the 6-inch cloudy stencil, I find I have a hard time being careful when I come to those edges, and those clouds just kind of wrap around and they don't fall off the edges of that paper very nicely. So I thought that using the longer slimline stencil worked a lot better. Now you'll see this first line of clouds that I start. I goofed and I grabbed the wrong brush. It still had tea dye in it, so it's kind of a icky color of cloud, but that's okay. It's going to be covered up anyway by a little tree canopy is what I'm calling it. So it was no big deal. It was definitely not something that I needed to start all over with. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the top of my paper and work down, just laying in those clouds with the Uncharted Mariner. When I get down to that bottom part where I've masked off my hillside, I will just blend in a little bit of very light ink just to kind of finish off that horizon. I am a big fan of these cloud stencils. I just think they make such a beautiful landscape scene. As I was reviewing how to put this card together on Lawn Fawn's introductory tutorial, I was inspired by Megan Quinn's card. She used trees to kind of make a canopy at the top of her card, so I tried to recreate that in mine. For my first layer of trees, I'm using the new algae cardstock that came out with this latest release. I'm going to put I'm using the Puffy Clouds border die. I'm going to place that about 1.25 inches down from that top corner. I don't think you could go much lower than that, just because that little kangaroo that pops up is fairly large, and he's either going to hit that line of trees or he's going to hide behind that line of trees. So I thought 1.25 inches was just about the most you could come down onto the card. The darker green layer up above is just about 3/4 inch to 1 inch, give or take a little bit. Once I get those two pieces cut, I'm going to take a little bit of Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink and just hit those edges just to kind of soften them a little bit so they're not quite so harsh. I wind up doing that on most things that I cut out. It just kind of adds just a little bit of something to those edges. I'm using the sentiments from the Kanga-riffic Baby Sentiment Add-on. I just love "You're Going to Be Great Parents." I love that little sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that using white embossing powder along with the congratulations up on that top panel. It's kind of funny how the bottom sentiment just fit on that bottom panel just right once I got those accordion folds put in it. It was just meant to be. Okay, now I'm going to start folding my little pieces so that they all work together on the card. For the little canopy, I'm going to fold my pieces first where they need to be, and then I will go ahead and use the adhesive tape to layer them both together. I'm going to fold my little foreground layer, the little landscaping piece, the exact same way as I did my tree canopy. I like to give all of those pieces a good press with my little, I call it a bone folder. It's not really a bone folder, but it works just the same. I'm also going to fold the main piece of my card, making sure I give that a good press with each fold. There are 3 little mechanism pieces that come with this set that determine how far out your little pop-up goes. I chose the one that is the closest to the left-hand side of the card. I did that basically because that kangaroo is fairly large, and I had the mama kangaroo on the right-hand side of the card, and I just needed to leave space for her. So that's the one I wound up choosing. And again, a good fold on both of those pieces is a great idea. I'm going to apply some adhesive to the one folded piece that doesn't have the arm connected to it. I'll go ahead and put tape on that. I'll fold it back down, and then I'm going to place that long side along the fold of the card, that very first fold, and then I'll just leave that so that the arm lays down flat in the card. You really can't tell whether or not that mechanism is going to work until you have that front panel placed on it to kind of force it to pop up. So you'll see in this section that I'm just kind of playing around with it, making sure that that mechanism is going to pop up and that it's in the spot that I really want it to be. I'll just go back and forth with that mechanism quite a few times just to test it out before I give it a really good press with my folder. Okay, now it's time to put everything together. So I am going to use some really strong adhesive tape to put these layers together. Sometimes I have problems when I've used distressed ink. Sometimes it's a little bit waxy, and my adhesive tape doesn't want to stick very well. I don't know if it's humidity or the paper or whatever, but in order to be sure that this isn't going to fall apart, I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit stronger tape. I'll put that on the corner pieces of each of those pieces, so like the foreground and then my little tree canopy, and line them up at each corner and press them down. So once you see I've got all of those applied, it kind of looks now like I have a little bit of a shadow box going. And again, I'm still testing to make sure that my little mechanism, my little piece is still popping up. So it's quite ingenious, actually. This video is already fairly long, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with me coloring. So I have used Copic markers. I like to use Express It cardstock. That's just what works best for me. I find I have an easier time blending. So the colors are as follows. For the treetops, I used YG03, YG23, YG25. For the little grass tufts, I used G24 and G46. For the kangaroos, I used E42, E43, and E47. The trunks on the trees are E35, E37. The little kookaburra, which I colored yellow, and I'm sure they're not yellow. I think they're like a black and gray bird, but I thought my card needed a little bit of color, so he is yellow, and that is Y02, Y00. The little flowers, they look kind of like little clovers is what I think they look like, are BV0000 and BV01. The little lizards, I think I used just the same colors as I did the little trees. The rocks were also E35 and E37. Now that everything's colored and cut out, I have to figure out where and how I want that little jumping kangaroo to look. So I'm going to go ahead and place my little mama kangaroo on the card, and then I'm just going to play around with that mechanism, seeing where that little kangaroo is best going to fit. I want the trees to be over on the left-hand side to kind of cover up that fold. So I'm just going to go back and forth and figure out where he fits best. I have used adhesive tape on him just so he's not permanent and I can move him around. I'm also very careful on where I place him so that when that card is folded up, that he's not peeking out from the bottom. Sometimes you can get a little bit too ambitious, and before you know it, you've got arms and legs peeking out at the bottom of your card. So just take your time and figure out where he fits best. Alright, I don't know if I could possibly play with this layout anymore. I've gone ahead and I've glued some of the little flowers to the back of the big and the little rocks. I've just left some rocks without anything on them. I've got a rock with a lizard on it. I put my little kookaburra up in one of the trees, and I used one of the smaller, maybe two of the smaller trees on the back panel to create a little bit of depth in my scene. All in all, I am just as pleased as can be with the way this little card turned out. Oh, I did put a little bit of decorations in that fold area. That way it just adds a little bit more surprise for the recipient when they pull open that card, as if that kangaroo just isn't enough. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for today. Again, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future videos. You can follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill or on my blog, A Little Bit of Glitter. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.